Dear friends, the party's over. Have a seat. You all know the name Mitch Albom? Mitch Albom wrote one of his books about his childhood rabbi, Rabbi Al Lewis, and a preacher in the city of Detroit, where Mitch has been living for many years. Anyhow, his rabbi tells him that every year on the High Holy Days, he becomes so upset and unhappy because as soon as his sermon is over, everybody walks out. And Mitch said to him, "Rabbi, it could be worse. They could walk out before you give the sermon." So anyhow, I'm going to ask you, please don't walk out right now, but also please don't walk out just after the sermon, because after the sermon comes up the cantor's prayer, the Hineni. So, you know, our motto is here at Ohev Shalom, come when you can, leave when you must. So if you must leave, just wait until after the cantor's prayer. Okay? And we'll be getting started in just one moment. And so, dear friends, so begins my final lap. I thought this would be a no-pressure High Holy Days. Good or bad, I'm done. But that was until someone said to me, "You know, Rabbi, you got a lot of pressure on you this year. You better be good." Pressure still, and so here goes my final lap, looking back. True to form, I should begin with a few of the funnier moments in my rabbinic life. The first one happens in an Episcopal church in Mayfair. You know Mayfair? That's Frankfurt and Kottman, where they grease the poles over there. So anyhow, a dear friend, Father Glenn Mattis, actually I was very close to him and his church because, you know, if you go up 2nd Street Pike at 232 and 413, you go to the right a little bit, is Nativity Episcopal Church. He was the vicar there. We became friendly over the years, and he was moving to an Episcopal church in Mayfair. So he invited all of the members of our ministerium here, Northampton, Southampton, Wrightstown, to come to his installation service in Mayfair, in his new church in Mayfair, and that we would be part of the processional coming in. So we were asked to wear our full clergy attire. So I didn't want to wear the robe that I wear on the High Holy Days only, so I wore my kippah, I wore my talit, and I'm ready to go. And the program begins with the processional. So in the processional, first there was to be a cross held by a young man to lead the way. And then all visiting clergy, which was the ministerium, all visiting clergy after him, and then the Episcopal clergy and whatever, a lot of Episcopal clergy that was there. So time came to line up, and I see I am the only visiting clergy. So first, there's this, it looked like gigantic to me, it was like a 6-foot cross being held by a young man. And right behind the cross is me. Here I am. I'm leading the way, followed by a retinue of Episcopal priests. I couldn't help but think, you know, Woody Allen should be here to get this. Here I am. Well, it was a first. And then after we were all seated, there was a very touching moment. All of the dignitaries were being introduced, and when everyone's name was being announced, they got a polite applause. And then when they said Rabbi Elliot Pearlstein, there was really, wow, an enthusiastic, really wow. And I'm saying to myself, well, that can't be for me. They don't even know me. I'm just here. But you know what it was in Mayfair? They were so moved that a rabbi, a Jewish clergy, would come to their church that it was really very moving to me. You know, I grew up in Oxford Circle, and Mayfair was the other side of the boulevard. We didn't go there too often, but we knew where it was. You know, we called it a verschiedene Welt. You know, it was a different world. But I learned something that night. And I've learned a great deal in the rabbinate over the years. Some years later, Janie and I and the girls spent the last week of December in St. Martin. You see, there's a theme going through this. Episcopal Church, St. Martin, my life in the rabbinate. And we were staying on the Dutch side of the island. It's the more sedate side of the island. And one day, I hear that out of the blue, we're going to the French side of the island. We're going to the nude beach. I was very touched that they told me that we're going. So, why are we going to the nude beach? To make a long story short, little Samara then, she's now a mother of 3, little Samara in 6th grade, she wanted to go to the nude beach. So that meant we're going to the nude beach. So we go over to the nude beach, and you know, you could wear clothes on the nude beach. So we're all wearing clothes, and we're walking on the beach, and every time there's someone who takes nude beach a little too seriously, they're like covering Samara's eyes. But then they let her look, because between you and me, there was really nothing to look at. You know how it goes. So we're walking, you know, and then I hear something that is the absolute last thing I want to hear. On the nude beach, on the French side of St. Martin. Rabbi! 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 So I start looking around. I had a nice career in the rabbinate, I say to myself. And I see that a family in the congregation is sitting kind of like, you know, in the chairs, you know, cabana chairs. They were on a cruise, and they chose to have this excursion on the nude beach. And so what am I going to do? I walk over to them, and what do you say at a moment like that? You come here often? No, this is my first time here. I would never think of it. My last time also, I promise you. I'm not coming back. But that family that was there, I'm happy to say, still are members of the synagogue. They are amongst the nicest, sweetest, loveliest people that I know. Generous to the synagogue. Longtime members of the Rabbi Circle. Since that auspicious stay at the beach, I've officiated at their family's b'nai mitzvah, weddings, and most recently, a baby naming. What I learned from that is, don't ever think you're far enough from congregants that they will not see you. Because they will be there too. And I've been perfectly content with that. Oh, there's a third one that I can't tell you until after June 30th. It's my last day, then I can tell the story. Okay. So once upon a time, there was a young aspiring rabbi who came to a brand new synagogue's first ever service in the Friends Meeting House in Southampton, Pennsylvania. It was a Purim night, 1976. Mimi and Bernie, you remember this well? And maybe that's why I love Purim so much. I did a kind of a Purim service that night, and the next day I was in the hospital for a week's worth of chemotherapy, IV chemotherapy. I really didn't expect to be invited back. I was sick. I was bald at the age of 23 and a half. But I was invited back to do a Friday night service, to do a model Seder, and then Friday night services, I think it was like once a month at that time over the summer. And then I got my big break. I was invited to do High Holy Day services. Well, we didn't have a deep bench in those days. We were only 6 months old. So I led the service, read the Torah, blew the shofar, and for the next 5 years, I was cantor and rabbi wrapped up in one package. I was a Hebrew school teacher, and for 1 year, I was the Hebrew school principal. I was definitely not cut out to be a Hebrew school principal. So my hair started growing back curly, as could be, and even though I had another year of chemo to go, it was growing, and I didn't get it cut until it was pretty much almost down to my shoulders. We had tons of B'nai Mitzvah that were being scheduled at that time, all young families that were joining. And I remember writing the names of upcoming B'nai Mitzvah in a calendar for the next 2 or 3 years down the road, wondering whether I would make it that far. In rabbinical school, we had to purchase the volumes of the Encyclopedia Judaica. It cost some $500. And I wasn't sure that it was worth spending all that money because life itself was a question mark. Relatively recently, I've reached the point of looking back over the years with a certain sense of pride. Up until then, I was always more focused on what I hadn't accomplished and where I fell short. But I am especially proud of that 20-something-year-old kid who had the sword of Damocles hanging over his head, still putting one foot in front of the other in pursuit of a dream. People have often said to me over the years, you should feel very proud of what you've built there in your synagogue. And I do feel very proud. I do feel very proud of what we've built here. What we've built here. I am so grateful that I've been part of an incredible community with many people playing many roles. And together we have built our synagogue together, spiritually and physically. I am proud that at the age of 47 now, which is the age of our synagogue, the shelf life of so many synagogues in Philadelphia that are no more, we are experiencing a renaissance of sorts. If you were here just last Sunday morning, the first day of Hebrew school, you saw the sanctuary filled with kids and their parents. It was, Michael, we were chatting about it. It was just like a fantastic feeling that morning. It's the new life of Ohev Shalom. The parking lot was full. And there is a new young generation happening in our synagogue, along with the stability of loving, long-time members who go back a good number of years. I like to call us a boutique synagogue, with children and young families becoming part of our established community, because those kids, those families, are our tomorrow. I can't tell my story without including those who have taken this journey with me, but are no longer with us. In the earlier years of the synagogue, we experienced tragedies that shook us, that shook me to the core. 6 months after I graduated from rabbinical school, we lost Bennett Zion Feld, Sonny and Marv's son, Sidra's brother, in an accident driving back to college that January in Florida. Bennett was one of the best young people ever ever in our synagogue. I got a call sitting at my desk at home that Bennett had been killed. The caller asked me to go to the hospital where Sonny worked as a nurse and tell her the tragic news. And he didn't hear a response from me. I was absolutely frozen. So he spoke some more, asked me again, and I was still silent. After some time, he said, okay, I'll call Rabbi Chazen, because his synagogue was close to Friends Hospital, where Sonny worked as a nurse. And it just so happens, as I'll mention a little bit later, Rabbi Chazen was my rabbi growing up, that as soon as he said, well, kind of like he didn't say the words, parenthetically, I see you can't be of any help, I'll call Rabbi Chazen. Well, a switch turned on inside of me that this was something I had to do. It was a week and a half after Amy Rockhauer's bat mitzvah, a sweet, sweet, sweet and precious 13-year-old. You can still see Amy standing right here. Spoke to her. Amy was killed in a freakish accident in a school bus on the way to school. Amy, the daughter of Cy and Eileen Rockhauer and sister of Jeff Rockhauer, who with Mindy, who read the Haftorah this morning, are raising their family in our synagogue. Amy was a budding artist. So sweet. And when I spoke to Amy at her bat mitzvah, I said, Amy, you are like an artist's canvas with a painting just begun and so very promising. I know you'll paint the most beautiful picture of what will be your story as time goes on.